Good morning, everyone. It's Joker, and today we are back with another slime video. And we've gone through the normal battles of Jubilee. It is time now to take on the boss battles. And as you can see, I'm sitting pretty good. That score will change though, and I will be bumped down as more people, just do Jubilee in general. But, I'm not worried about it. These are very good scores for where I need to be. My goal was to get 1.2. We've certainly hit it. Boss battles are... I'd say not as bad as I were expecting them to be. I expected some really, really weird janky stuff going on, and there's only a little bit of jank, and it is still doable. So today we're going to be looking at Boss Battle 1. It's the AOE stage, and they don't really do that much. They, have magic resistance, so none of that. They lower your guard penetration and light resistance. Ranga just nerfs greens, so straight up just don't bring a green team. And then Shuna, guaranteed guard for a couple turns, and then pierce resistance and crit resistance. So that's where the no Commander Diablo, no crit kind of stuff unless you really play around with it. And this does stack, so by the end of it, they do have 100%, and there's just no way to get rid of that except for Milim. So we will take a look at that in a bit, but otherwise, it's a fairly straightforward stage. On the starting hand is going to look like this, Special Convert. So you're going to use, if you have her, Hinata for technically both stages, because this is a Special Convert, and then Boss Battle 2 is a just double green, which Hinata can do both of those. So let's go ahead and build the first team. Alright, the first team is the meta. This is my highest scoring team. Renard, Glenda, Diablo, Hinata, Shizu, and then Overlord Shizu to help us do a lot more weakness strike and alt resistance down. The charm that I'm running is the protection gauge on blues, the 2-star charm, so if anybody asks, that's what I'm doing. And I do want to make a very quick note that both Diablo, Hinata, or all three of them, Hinata, Diablo, and Shizu, have fairly good enchanted weapons for synergy power. So I think Hinata has a full 36%, like the perfect roll synergy power buff. So if you're not fully enchanted, or you don't even know what that is at this point, your numbers will not look as good. But just with that out of the way, I just want to give you guys that heads up that we are doing a lot of additional power with some of our units because of the enchantments. But turn one is the Hinata Convert. We have a lot of protection gauge characters, and also, if you've noticed, we had Fire Benimaru underneath Shizu, and that's because he gives us skill points on turn 2. And because Hinata's Orb Convert does not give us any gauge increase, we only get 48 points out of it on the full 6 send, which is not enough to use another Hinata next turn if we needed to. So we put Benimaru there to kind of get around that, because he would give us 54 points after the turn is over. Thankfully, though, didn't really need it. So we've got one orange orb. Great, very lucky. We've got a double stack of Renard because we still have enough traits to do that, because we've got, Overlord Shizu, Enchanted, or Exalted Champion Milim, and then Hinata's own trait is working for us. So we can double stack here. With this run, I think, actually, now that I look back on it, I might get more damage if I just AoE with Glenda instead of trying to ult with Hinata, because Hinata does not get her EX ult. The primary targets are Shizu, EX AoE, and Diablo, type advantage, with his massive personal buffs. So Hinata is not really doing all that much, so I feel like I should redo this and bring Glenda instead. So if you want to take that into account and maybe try your run with that in mind, certainly something you can do. Otherwise, this is just a blue stacking team. I don't really think I have to sit here for 8 turns and explain to you what is going on. It's literally just convert all the orbs to blue. We want to make sure we do use the Lord's Ambition with Diablo enough to where we can really benefit off of those extra stacks of weakness resistance down on all 3 of the enemies. Remember, you don't have to spam it, though, right? He gives himself the 30% alt gauge for free when you use it, but it's active for 2 turns, and as long as it's active at the end of the turn, they will get that passive debuff. So unless you're, really, really running out of time and you don't have a Diablo EX alt, there's really no reason to try and just spam it. It's just a waste of points, and this team can get very expensive very, very quickly. So, other than that, it is what it is. Again, we're trying to get the Diablo EX and the Shizu EX alts. Glenda is here to do our double convert, so that's very, very nice, or single convert right now, because that's all we need. We'll use Hinata's convert. Because we use Glenda, we do get that gauge increase on blues, which is very, very nice, and we get the multi-hit. There is no shield for Boss Battle 1. There is a shield for Boss Battle 2, but you don't need the multi-hit to do anything on Boss Battle 1, which is really, really good. They just guard a lot, I guess, to get around that fact. I don't know. But here, we got a full orange hand. Well, not full, but we've got only oranges, which means that we don't have to use Hinata. So, boom, and then we can use Glenda's alt swap now. We've got a decent amount of alt gauge for Shizu already, and we still have 2 more active turns. It's just that we really need to ensure that we do get orbs for Shizu. So what I'm going to do is, since Diablo has his EX alt already, I'm going to get him out of here, because that's going to pull in that green Shizu orb, and that'll give us 3, because I'm going to use Glenda's alt swap ability after Diablo goes away. So Hinata comes in, and then we'll alt swap that one Shizu orb, and we'll use Hinata's convert anyways, and now we have 3 guaranteed Shizu orbs. And this is going to get us a lot of gauge. It's going to get us Hinata alt as well, so we're pretty set there. Again, if you're going to go for the Glenda alt, then you should be prioritizing her. But what this means is that we're very, very close, and now that's perfect right there. We have a guaranteed 4 Shizu orbs and no Glenda orb. So I had to think about it because I didn't want to mess it up, because this is the best run I was ever going to get, essentially. So I'm going to make a quick pause right here and kind of go over what's happening. So I need to use Hinata's convert right here to get all these converted. I want to use Glenda's alt convert as well, so these turn into blues. I can then bring Diablo in for Glenda, because she has no orb whatsoever, and then I can take Hinata out for Overlord Shizu. That way, on the nuke turn, I have my 2 primary nukers up front, and I have Overlord Shizu with them to be able to buff them immediately, and then I can bring Glenda in and buff them, and then I can bring Hinata in and still get that final hit. So here we go. I've thought about it. The alt swap, Diablo will come in for Glenda, and then we will get a stack on everybody, and then convert with Hinata, and Hinata goes away. And this ensures that we are ready to nuke. We will also reapply Lord's Ambition, because why not? We get another 10% resistance down at the end of this turn, which just helps our damage out. And then Shizu, now that we don't have an alt, comes in, and we have all of our primary nukers up front. This gets us the EX Shizu alt, and again, this is the best run I'm going to get. Like, I want to kind of come back and redo it to get the Glenda ult instead, but at the same time, I don't know if I'm going to get this kind of RNG again. So, and we do have an orb for Shizu, thank God. We have 1 orb for Shizu. That's the requisite right there. It's not a great hand, but at least we have all 3 ults. So, Shizu buff, out she comes for Glenda, Glenda buff, and then Hinata comes in and we triple buff here, and we'll go ahead and send it, and I'll pause on the damage numbers. We do 2 more stacks of Renard, and this is going to do big time damage right here. And again, everybody has enchanted weapons. We're going to send Shizu's ult first, because she has an effect on it. I think it's like defense down, and then we'll send everybody else. So Shizu does 4.6 million damage. Very, very good. So what, from 13-ish million right there. Hinata, because she's not getting all of the buff, she doesn't have synergy, she doesn't have that extra weakness strike from Shizu, and she doesn't have the EX ult, she doesn't do very good damage. So this is why I think that if you're going to ult with somebody as a third, you should probably do Glenda, because she'll actually have synergy. And then Diablo comes in and drops a 14 million. So he's pretty good right there. Again, Enchanted Gear will definitely push those numbers up. And then we've got 2 nerfed greens, so even that could be a lot better. And that gives us our final score, after we skip ahead, of 29.6 million total damage. That is enough for rank 2 currently, as of recording this. And that is, again, my best run so far. Let's move on to the not-so-great runs. Alright, the next run is, assuming you at least pulled Renard and you have New Year's Blessing Rimuru because he is on the Commander Force. We've got free-to-play Glenda. We've got second anniversary Water Hinata. You could swap her out for Light Leon or Light Lumi. Really doesn't matter. I just need a light buffer, essentially. And then Fount of Wisdom Rimuru for the orange convert and physical buff. And then Guy, who technically does give physical allies crits. It's just that we're not going to have Rimuru up front when we use his buff. So he'll still benefit off the alt buff, but not nerf himself into the ground with the crit damage. So this team, I mean, you don't have an AoE alt anymore, except for Glenda, who, again, is, even on this team, is not getting super huge buffs either. So not that important. You can go for it, but you're primarily just trying to single target nuke with Rimuru and trying to get a damage score with someone who at least has the extra weakness strike from, or the extra damage buff from Renard, who will also benefit off the weakness strike and alt resistance down. Because Guy, Rimuru, and Hinata, they won't benefit from that extra weakness strike. They're not on Commander. We're also not running full protection gauge right there, so we didn't get the 2 stacks, so that's a bit more realistic for most people that are not going to have, the protection traits to get double stack on turn 2. We get a really bad hand, but we're going to use the Rainbow Orbs to kind of get out of it early. This, by no means, is a perfect run. It is a run with a single target nuker in an AoE stage, so you really got to temper your expectations there. But we do, because we had 3 Rainbow Orbs, we have an alt for Rimuru already. We're not going to do anything with it, because again, we got 6 more turns to go. So we're just going to alt swap away and orb change. We've got enough points for it. So if you don't mind, I'm going to go ahead and skip, because this is going to get real boring. Alright, perfect. We came to a really bad hand with only Glenda orbs. We do get Glenda's ult, though. So, I mean, that's something. We've got, this is our last turn before the nuke. Rimuru has his EX ult already in the back, and he needs to stay in the back, because when we use Guy's buff, we don't want to give him crit. Ideally, I don't want to have Glenda up here either. So we're gonna buffer. We're gonna use Hinata's buff now to give it to Glenda, because it's only gonna be 60 points next turn. We have enough to do that. So she's coming out for Fount of Wisdom Rimuru. So now this means that when we use Guy's buff, he can go away for New Year's Rimuru. We could reapply the Hinata buff on him now, and then we can get Hinata out of here for Glenda. That's how we're gonna play around here. So Guy's buff, 80 points, no guaranteed crit for anybody except Rimuru, who doesn't matter. And then New Year's Rimuru comes in for him. We'll apply the 60 point now Hinata buff. That way both him and Glenda have it. And then we'll get Glenda in here for Hinata, and then we can have Fount of Wisdom Rimuru give both of them the physical buff. So nobody has crits, but we still have the alt buff from Guy, which is very, very good. We've already used the attack buff with Rimuru, so we don't need to worry about that at all. And I don't have enough points to convert, so I don't have a converter anyways. So 372 for Glenda, and Rimuru does 2 million. Alright, so I mean, Glenda almost did 1 million by herself. I mean, that's pretty good for not fantastic buffs. But, again, this is a free-to-play unit and a single target DPS in an AoE stage. So 3.5 million can definitely do better if you have, Hinata, or you have Shizu or whatever. You have other units from this meta, substitutions, Diablo. But there's a team that only has the brand new Protector and the free-to-play unit, essentially. Alright, the third team was given to me by one of my Discord members, Clasher, and it's going to be a Visions of Coleus team with Summer Milim, who is a dark character who will get the attack stacks from Lumi and will benefit off the synergy buff. And we're going to bring Fire Milim because she seals the crit resistance on the enemies, all of them. If she's skill fused, she does it for 2 turns. If she's not, it's just 1 turn. Mine technically is skill fused, but I only use her on the nuke turn, so don't worry about it if she's not skill fused. I'm here for the crit sealing ability. Blanc is here to give us synergy resistance down and weakness strike for Milim, and also be our triple alt swapper. Guy, we are actually going to use his crit buff now. Like, I do want his crit buff because we are sealing the crit resistance. And then Fount of Wisdom Rimuru in the back with Milim herself. So we're actually going to prioritize both Fount of Wisdom Rimuru and Dark Milim because they're both AoE characters. And even if Rimuru doesn't have type advantage, he is still going to get the attack stacks from Lumi. So he will do okay damage. And he's an AOE. And that's what's really important here. So, okay. That's also a dead run. Let me find the real run. Okay, found it. We're skipping ahead to turn 2, technically. Because we know what turn 1 was. Just Guy convert. So now, boom. We've got a good convert for Rimuru. We'll bring Guy back in. We'll use Rimuru's convert. And then we'll use our double stack of Lumi. We're going to put the stacks on Guy as well, because he does get it, so we might as well give it to him. And Blanc will not do as much damage, because she's magic, and they have magic resistance, so I'd rather give it to Guy. And if we do happen to get the Guy ult, well then great. Then we have another single target physical character who's going to have the guaranteed crits. And if not, well, it's not a super huge big deal right here. We do have enough points to convert now, and we do have Rimuru, so convert, boom, boom. We do also have the ability to steal Milim orbs in our back pocket. If we go multiple turns, then we don't have any Milim orbs. You can certainly just yoink them all and guarantee her ult, or get her very close to her ult. And it kind of eliminates some of the RNG where blue orbs don't really give a lot of ult gauge for characters, unless you're literally sitting here for 8 turns and everything goes perfect. But again, I don't think we need to sit here and watch this entire run, because it is still blue stacking, and it's pretty brain dead. So the only thing that's really going to be necessary to really watch is the final turn, where we are flipping people out left and right. So let me make a quick pause after we convert here and double stack. So, I mean, it looks like this. Do this for 8 turns. Alright, coming back on the second to last turn. This time, instead of taking our DPSs out, I want to leave them in. So we're going to take Guy out. We're going to ult swap with Blanc. We're going to use the Rimuru orb convert. We have 1 Rimuru orb, which is just enough to get his EX ult. That's what I'm testing right here. Yeah, just enough. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. We've already got the attack buff with Milim activated because it's 15 points. We got an unlucky Pierce right there. Not great. And I don't think that's the last time we see that. But now we're going to full buff. So Blanc's buff, active. Milim buff. She's technically giving guaranteed crits to everybody. Alright, but she's more importantly sealing the crit resistance. And then Guy will give himself crit because it's on his skill. Oh, we didn't use Milim's attack buff yet. Never mind, I lied. But there we go. So, full buffs active. We still have 90 points, so you know what? We're going to steal those orbs that are blue, and now we have a full hand of Milim, essentially. 2 more stacks of Lumi, and we'll go ahead and nuke first with Rimuru. He's got defense down, then Milim, then Guy. So Rimuru does 411, 408k, you know, give or take around there. It's not bad for a character with no type advantage and no extra damage from the protector coming in. That's fairly good right there. And then Milim comes in and drops 1.8 million, so much, much better. And then Guy, with his single target, 418k. And then you can see our Milim 200% orb does 330,000. So it's a very, very strong team. Much better than that single target Commander or New Year's Wrestling Rimuru team, right? Because we actually are playing to the stage and using AOE characters. So there we go. There's using old Fire Milim. Still a fairly good support in the places that you can use her, and pretty effective. Along with Guy still being one of the top units in the game to this day, a year and change later. And Rimuru, even older than Guy, still being really effective and good. So there's another substitute team you can use, and let's take a look at the sad, sad last team. Alright, the final team. There is another protector that gives us extra damage against light characters, and that is Summer Memories Trainee. You know, we used Milim, and we're going to use her again. So, we've got this. Summer Memories Trainee, Milim, AoE character, right? And then we've got Tempest Elite Gobta, free-to-play unit. He's going to cover our greens, and he's also going to have an alt swap. Fountain Wisdom Rimuru once again making a return, because he's just that good. Summer Lumi, God help her soul. We're going to make her try and nuke. And then we've got Summer Shizu. Summer Shizu also has an alt swap. So we have 2 separate alt swaps here, and we have a 2-turn weakness strike from Shizu. We've got up to 100% alt damage for dark and fire characters from Lumi, the physical buff from Rimuru, the attack and dark attack from Milim, and then Trainee is going to guarantee that every single orb that we get when we use her in the future will be blues. You know, just like how Soka guarantees that orbs in the next turn will be green, or Hinata or New Year's Milim guarantees that they're going to be orange, Trainee is the protector that's going to do that for blues. We currently don't have a battle unit that does that for blues. Also, one more thing to note, I switched the charm on Trainee since we're not stacking anymore. We are running the skill points on blue charm, because blues inherently don't give you a lot of skill points. We are on a skill point pretty hungry team with what we're going to do. Even the 40 points that Trainee gives us sometimes isn't enough. So I want to just capitalize on that. So the 3-star skill points on Soul of Blessing, or whatever the hell it's called, is what we're using for Trainee. But because we didn't bring a special converter, we're going to send these 4 blues turn 1, and then pray that we get some good Orb RNG on turn 2. Because 4 blues is enough to get us a Trainee if you have the big 3, traded out. And because we have Gobta and Rimuru, we've got, the greens and oranges covered. That's why a second reason why I brought Gobta instead of trying to bring the free-to-play Summer Ramirez that came with the meta, because I wanted both orbs covered, and I wanted the alt swap. So here, we'll also, Trainee gives us 40 skill points when we use her, and lowers the enemy's defense while guaranteeing the future hand of blues. And by giving us 40 points, that allows us to use Lumi's skill, which is the Enamor effect, which gives us 15% free alt gauge at the end of the turn for 2 turns. And this will help us really try and get at least Milim and Lumi's EX alts. We're going to really lean into that power, because it lasts for multiple turns, and you can Enamor multiple characters as long as you have the points for it. So that's what we're doing here, is now we're going to be getting 30% free alt gauge, because we've got the effect on 2 characters. It's impossible to do 3 because one of them runs out, and we can't use skills more than once unless we're using Protector Violet, which we're not. So 30% free alt gauge sounds really nice, especially when Milim already has an alt. And this is also why I wanted 2 separate alt swapping characters, because we're going to have alts, and I need a way to deal with them. So, boom. Shizu, I don't want her alt yet, because I don't want 3 characters' alts, because we're going to get Lumi's alt here, just from the orbs, and then we'll have the charm of the Enamor effect kick in. We're reapplying it to make sure that our blues orbs do 70% extra damage, which just helps our total score, right? And also putting the charm on. They do have guard now, so it cuts our damage in half. Not great, but it is what it is. Full hand of Rimuru right there, so that's great. And now we have 2 alts. I'm not going to use them. I really want to save them for the final nuke turn. So here, we're just going to bring Gobta in, alt swap, and then we'll bring Shizu in, and alt swap again. And then we'll have, 1 orb for Milim, 1 orb for Lumi, and 4 orbs for Shizu. That's going to get her alt. And we have 1 Enamor effect on right now. Trainee, we've got double of her. We're only going to use 1 because we don't need to use her twice. And we've got the extra 40 points. I could have used the Enamor effect right here. I'm not sure if I do. Okay, I do. All right, good. I'm smart. I do use it. So that's another 30%, which is going to help us get closer and closer to the EX alt for Lumi, since Milim is already there. So Shizu having an alt, not super great. Yeah, we're going to have to probably send that. So I'm going to use the alt swap. I'm praying that it doesn't hit Shizu because I don't want her to. So we'll use Lumi here. Guaranteed the next orb comes in is going to be blue. So we'll bring Gobta in. And then we'll use his alt swap. And with these orbs and the Enamor effect, we're going to get Summer Lumi's EX alt. So I'm debating here whether or not to use Lumi. So give me 1 second while I pause. Okay. So I decide not to, sorry, not Lumi, Trainee. I'm going to save Trainee. Dear Lord, I'm talking too much. My words are getting all tumbled. But there we go. We have 2 EX alts. We're pretty much ready to go. And now on the second to last turn, I do make a small misplay. So we're going to use the physical buff from Rimuru. That way it's on both of our physical characters. And right here, I should have used Trainee. because I'm going to use her anyways to get 40 points, because I need to alt swap or do something. But it would also guarantee that this incoming orange orb would be blue, and I don't do that, unfortunately. So I bring in that orange orb, and I don't want to use 2 trainees right here just to convert, because I'm already going to have to do an alt swap here. Or I just send 5 orbs, and I just don't use the Shizu ult, which we wouldn't have gotten the EX ult for her anyways, unless we had probably 2 more orbs for her, and we had a full blue send. So pretty unfortunate right there. But I do need to make sure that I have at least 110 points for the nuke, which we're going to have, because 44 plus 26 plus another 40 that we're going to get from trainee. We already have used the Milim attack buff, so the 15.1. So now we're just going to go ahead and send this. So a little bit of wasted damage right there. Rimuru did have the physical buff, but he's not doing a lot of damage anyways. And now we're ready to go. So we still have that 1 orange orb hanging around, unfortunately. A great shame on my misplay. But now we're going to bring Milim in for Gobta. That way she at least has 1 more guaranteed orb to send in this 5 blues, right? So Milim will come in, and then we will bring Lumi in for Rimuru. Again, we've already applied the Milim buff and the Rimuru buff, so we don't need to worry about that. We'll use the weakness strike now. We'll use trainee to give us 40 points, lower their defense, and that gives us exactly enough to use the fully buffed up Lumi skill. 100% ult, 10% down for Dark and Fire, and Lumi does 238, 237, sorry, it's a little blurry right there, and then Milim does 640. So yes, we are AOE, yes, we have type advantage, yes, we have the extra damage buff from trainee because we're fighting light enemies. Doesn't matter. It's an okay score. And this is an old team, and they've been featured on a number of things the past year or so since it's come out. But definitely can do a lot better. But there are 4 teams that you can attempt to use to take on Boss Battle 1 of Heroes Jubilee 40. If you have any other team suggestions that you've used that have worked, please put them down in the comments below so other people can check that out. But that's it for me, guys. Take it easy, and I'll see you all later.